everyone, and welcome back to my channel. So if you can tell from the title of this video, this is going to be a little bit of a different topic for me, but it's something I just sort of wanted to talk about. And I guess if you've read the title, you can see that I'm going to be talking about the thing that's come up I've seen a little bit recently. It's not a new topic necessarily, but it's with people in certain groups or in certain fandoms being kind of unhappy that it seems like often the same people win these fan signs, and you know, people are upset about that, I guess. That's gonna be what this is about. We'll get into it though. But I wanted to have a little disclaimer in here just at the beginning that like, this is all my own opinion and like, what do I know? So if you don't agree with me or think my opinion is hot garbage, that's completely okay. You're allowed to not agree with me or think that nothing that I say is important or like is the right opinion. That's okay. You're allowed to disagree with me. And I am not in these fandoms that I see most people talking about for the fan signs. Those aren't fandoms I'm in or I would ever try and get into a fan sign for. So like, I'm nobody's competition either. Like, this isn't me trying to like weasel my way in so that I become the winner. Like, I'll never apply to them. So I'm not competition either. And I guess we'll start with like my credentials, I guess. I've been a K-pop fan since 2008. I have applied for not very many fan signs. I believe I applied to one Shiny Don't Call Me fan sign and one Ace fan sign. I didn't get into either of them. And then I've applied to quite a few boyfriend fan signs and I have gotten into quite a few of them. I think most, if not almost all of the ones that I've applied for, I've got in for boyfriend. So that's my experience with the online like fan calls or fan signs. It's basically just boyfriend, and they're a much smaller group than the groups that I see discussed in this problem. So now let's get into it, I guess. So first, I guess I'll mention the things that I've heard talked about with this fan sign topic. The people who I've seen talk about this, the things that I guess I see brought up more often is that people are upset that the same few people win the fan signs, and so I guess I've seen people be like, why doesn't the company, like either My Music Taste or Make Star, like those companies, or the actual like K-pop company, why don't they limit how many albums people can buy or limit how many times somebody can win to give other people the chance? And then I've seen people upset that the people who, again, I don't know any of the people who win these fan signs, like I don't know any of these people at all, but I've heard that people are upset that if they've reached out to the people who they see win all the time and they've asked them how many albums they bought, they won't disclose that information, like they won't tell them how many albums that they bought, and they're upset about that. And then thirdly, I've also heard people being upset that the same people keep winning, and I've heard some people say that like they're not a real fan of them and it's like not fair that they're winning. Again, this is just sort of stuff I've just picked up on like Twitter and TikTok, so this isn't against any particular person that I'm saying like I'm disproving their points. Like, this is not against or for any particular person, this is just general discussions here. So first we'll talk about why doesn't the company limit how many times somebody can win or limit how many albums can be bought? And I guess my biggest like thing to that is, why would they ever? Like, from a company or business standpoint, why would they ever do that? Again, maybe I'll get proven wrong and that would be great, but like I just can't see them ever limiting how many albums can be bought or limiting how many times you can win, because the whole point of fan signs is to sell albums. Like, that's the only reason that they exist. Because, you know, because they're not doing these for free. They're not doing these calls for free. So they're doing them for album sales, because it's a really good way to get a whole bunch of people to buy a whole bunch more albums to try and have a chance to get in, because it's all a lottery system. So you could get in with one, you could get in with lots, and lots of people buy lots. Like, it's a smart business decision, because all they have to do is sit and idle down, especially the online ones. They have to sit and idle down in a chair and filter through Zoom calls for like an hour, and they get to sell a whole bunch of albums for that, knowing that only like 30 to 60 people are gonna win. Like, it's a smart business idea, but like so that's why I don't see them ever limiting anything, because if they have somebody who consistently wins these fan signs but is also willing to spend a whole bunch of money on like 100 albums. I don't know how many albums anybody buys to get into any fan sign, but imagine somebody buys 100 albums and they consistently buy 100 albums for every fan sign. Why would they ever be like, no, you can't enter anymore. You're not allowed. Like, because that means that they're losing that guaranteed 100 more album sales every fan sign. And if they do quite a few fan signs, like, that's a lot, you know? So, and that's the thing with why they won't limit how many albums you could buy either, because they want to sell albums. And yes, if they limited it to like 1 album per person, I mean, people would find a way around that though, because they would, you know, they would find a way, they would get somebody else to enter on their behalf. Like, they'd find ways to get around that. And yeah, maybe more people would apply, but they would, you know, potentially still sell less albums if they were only limiting it to like, you're only allowed to buy 1 album or whatever. Again, maybe that'll change someday. I just don't see it because they want to make money. That's what they're doing. Now, there is fan calls that exist that aren't fan sign based. I did actually a whole video on different fan calls and fan signs. I'll link it somewhere up above, but there's at least, I don't know if anywhere else does this, but there's a thing called Fan Cafe Live where you a lot of groups are not part of that, but like Boyfriend is, which is why I know about it. And that is just where you buy like a ticket, and each ticket is worth a minute of talk time. And there's no lottery system, so you buy the ticket, you get in, that's it. You can pick however many minutes you want, however much you can afford, and you're guaranteed to get those minutes. I believe that there's like usually a limit of like 100 minutes per person, but generally nobody's buying 100 minutes, you know? So there are things like that for certain groups, but the bigger groups, it's not worth it for them to do something like that. Like, even paying, I think for Fan Cafe Live, at least the Boyfriend ones that I've done, it's like $50 a minute, which is absolutely ridiculous. But for the, you know, for the bigger groups, it's like, first of all, they would sell out immediately, and it's like, still, it's probably not worth their time. Because with that system, they have 100 tickets and that's it. That's all they can sell. So if those tickets go, then that's it. They can't sell. But for a fan sign, they can sell as many albums as they possibly can, and still only 30 to 60 people are gonna get in. So it's like that's worth their time, while the Fan Cafe Live like fan call thing might not be worth their time. And I'm not sure if this problem with the same people winning fan signs happens in in-person fan signs. I imagine that it does. And I imagine that it has the whole time fan signs have been a thing, just because some people at least have more expendable money than other people. But if they haven't changed the system in person for that, I can't see them changing it online, because it's the same thing. Like, if they've been willing to let it go in person for as long as it has, then online, like, why would they change it, you know? And it does really suck for people who don't have expendable FU money, which most of us don't. Most of us don't just have oodles of money that we can just throw away to have the chance to get into a fan sign. Because it's true that the more albums that you buy, the higher your chances. It doesn't guarantee you anything, because it's still a lottery system. You could still theoretically buy 1 album and get into the fan sign. But of course, having more tickets in the ballot box will make it more likely that your ticket will be pulled out. And it is just unfortunate that that's just what capitalism is, and it sucks that, you know, the more money you have or the bigger following you have, because if you can open huge group orders, like, that really helps too, but most of us don't have huge followings or a whole bunch of money. And certain groups, like Ace, I remember, sorry, she's very spook. My poor girl, she's very spooked because the snow's melting and it hits the windowsill and it scares her, so she'll just be here. But what was I saying? Okay, I literally can't remember what I was just saying, but yeah, but I think I was talking about people who have huge followings and can open group orders. Maybe I remember. For Ace, I remember, I think I don't remember which album, one of their last albums before they all went to the military, Butterfly Fantasy, that was the one that I applied for, and I tried to open a group order for it, because I was like, well, if I can help, like, get a couple, you know, buy a couple more albums and stuff. But Ace was a group where everybody opened a group order. There was like 35, 40 group orders that I would just see like on Facebook or on Twitter. Everybody had a group order, and because of that, nobody was entering into anybody's group orders, because everybody had a group order open, because everyone wanted to win. Because Ace is one of those groups that was really fun, looked really fun to talk to, so people really wanted to talk to them. But it was just like, it was so crazy. There were so many group orders open. But and I'm sure the people who had huge followings or were group order managers or whatever were able to get a lot more orders than like regular people who didn't have that as much. So that sort of thing really, it just sucks, you know, for the regular schmo, but that's, yeah, what capitalism is. I don't remember what my point was with that, but yeah. Oh, Bella. Here, we'll move the camera down so you can just witness her panic and for all this. It is pretty hot in here too, so she's also panting. My girl, it's okay. I know. She really hates the snow or the big kind of ice chunks hitting the window, so she hates it. It scares her every year. She's 10 and it scared her every year of her life. And it happens every year. All right, I guess we'll move on to the next sort of point, which is people being upset that people who win the fan signs won't disclose how many albums that they bought. And this, I will see if I can find the tweet. I'll put it up here if I can find it. Somebody made a really good point that I thought articulated it kind of well. But basically they were saying that like a reason why people could decide not to disclose how many albums that they bought is because they then don't want the person who asked them to come back after they don't win and go, I bought as many albums as you did and I didn't win, like, and get mad at them for not winning, right? Because nothing's guaranteed. So being like, say for me, I have no problem telling people how many albums I bought to get into the boyfriend fan signs. I bought 6 for the first one, 3 for the second one, and 2 for the last one. That was it, because again, boyfriend, much smaller group. But if somebody came to me and was like, hey, how many albums did you buy to win the fan sign? And I said, oh, I bought 6. And then they decided to buy 6 for the next fan sign and didn't get in, you know, if they were upset, they could come back to me and go like, well, you got in with 6 and I didn't get in, like, and then if they saw that I got in again, they'd be like, how dare you? Like, I bought as many albums as you did the first time and I didn't get in and you got in again. Like, you know, it just opens up another thing for people to be angry, another like way for people to be angry about. So I can see why, for that reason, why people wouldn't want to disclose. And just my opinion, again, I don't know these people, I don't know what their vibes are, I know nothing about them, but another reason could be that like money is difficult for people to talk about in general, because especially if you're people who know, if they win a lot, so you're assuming that they have lots of money, they maybe don't want to disclose how much money they actually have spent on albums, because you can deduce that by how many albums that they bought. If they said they bought 500 albums, you can imagine how much money they spend, and people don't necessarily want to talk about that. So I think that then if they went, oh yeah, I did, yeah, like, hey guys, I bought 500 albums for this, then, you know, they'd have a lot more people being like, you know, you're selfish and like, I can't even afford 1 album and you can afford 500. Like, of course, things that are valid and unfair, but still are just the thing that has happened. So I can see it from that perspective why people wouldn't want to disclose how many albums that they bought. And there's also like no guarantee. So again, you could buy 500 albums and not get into the fan sign, and you could buy 1 album and get in. Like, it's a lottery system. And of course, there could be people who whose parents know the company and are able to weasel their way in, I'm sure. But for the lottery part of it, it's a lottery system. So it doesn't really matter if you know how many albums somebody else buys or not. However, I do understand it's really frustrating as a fan when you have just no concept of like, is it even possible to like compete with the people? Because if you knew that everybody was buying 700 albums and that was like kind of the only people that were getting in were these people, and like the odd maybe one who's buying less, and you're like, I can't afford even nearly that, is there even any point in me entering? Like, I get it from a fan point of view. I know it's frustrating that like there's just no concept of how many albums people are buying, and maybe there is a way for people to be able to know how many albums are bought consistently, like, you know, but I don't really know what that solution would be, if there is a way for them to do that. But maybe there is at some point, being like, the average number of albums bought for the winners was this amount, like, just to give some people a base, like, okay, I need maybe around this, but there's no guarantee, so whether or not you buy that much might not make any difference. But I know it's incredibly annoying and frustrating. And also the people who do win, like, obviously have no obligation to tell you how many albums that they bought. I have seen people say that they think that for some of these groups, people are buying like 500 albums. Of course, I have literally no idea. Like, I have no idea. I feel like that's too many. Like, I just don't see that being like the median number of albums that people buy. But again, I honestly have no idea if that is true or not. But because people don't talk about it, then of course people can just say whatever number they want, and that's like the number. Again, I don't think 500 is the number, but I couldn't tell you what the number is because I have literally no idea. I also saw people talking, just again in little snippets around, about how some people, you know, will kind of brag about the fact that the idols who they talk to a lot for these fan signs remember them. And it's like, and especially if they're people who win all the time, you know, it is sort of like, well, yeah, of course they remember you. They talked to you like 5 times during these fan signs because you've won everyone. Of course they remember who you are. And so it's like, it's not necessarily like a bragging point. It's like, yeah, of course they remember who you are. Like if they're speaking to like 60 people and you're the consistent face in all these 60 people, like of course they're gonna remember you. And so yeah, which I agree, it's not necessarily like the huge bragging point that people I think it is. I will talk from experience because Hyunsung, it's been a long time since I've done a fan call with him, but I did quite a few because they came out with Adonis and they had a lot of things and I did a lot of them. He did remember me. He would remember me when we would talk again. He remembered things about me. Like he remembered that I was from Canada. On 2 of my fan sign albums, he tried to draw the maple leaf and they turned into little chicken feet and I got them tattooed because I think that's fun. But so we were able to like pick the conversation kind of back up where we started and stuff. But I remember after my first fan call with him, I finished the fan call, it was over, and I remember just sitting there and being like, oh, I can see how sasaengs happen. I can see it. Because for that 5 minutes that we were talking, we were friends. We were friends. We were just friends having a chat. And it was like, oh, I can see how people can get immediately like, they're my friends now. Like, yeah, they remember me and like, we're friends. Like, hey, they're my friends. Like you could totally see them I could see them on the street and go like, hey, and they would totally remember who I am and stuff. And I can see how the fan sign fan call thing fosters that kind of behavior because, again, you're friends. But I feel like the people who think like that, you have to remember that they're here, the idols are there for a job. You paid to talk to them, and they are being paid to sit there and talk to you. This is not an organic friend conversation. You paid them. So they are not your friend. They, you know, have no obligation to like be nice to you outside of this. Not that they're mean, not that they'll ever be like mean to anybody, but they have no obligation to like, they also don't have any obligation to remember you because they do meet a lot of people. So if they don't remember you, don't get upset if they remember you. And if you are someone who talks to them all the time, of course they're gonna remember you. It's sort of like you remembering, if you go to like school and you're in university, you'll recognize the same people in your classes. And if you're in the same class with 1 or 2 people, you're gonna remember them much more. So it's kind of that thing. Like it's not as big of a like super flex. And again, I'm sure there's some idols where people have actually made like actual friends from fan signs. I'm sure it's happened. But for the most part, it's not gonna happen. And then I guess that sort of leads me into my like the last sort of point, I guess, which is people being upset that like the people who are winning like aren't real fans or aren't bigger, like I'm a bigger fan than they are, so like they don't deserve it kind of thing. And this is the point that like I feel like sucks the most because like you kind of like, there's no qualification to being a fan of a group to get into any of these things. Same with like VIP tickets for concerts. There's no qualification to be a fan, to even get into the fan club. You don't have to prove that you're a fan. So you can't disprove that you can't prove that somebody is less of a fan than you because there's no qualifications for this. And there's also, and even if they aren't and they're just doing it for clout, there is at this point sort of nothing you can do about it. Like, and for me, it's like, why even be upset? Like, why? I mean, again, being upset, because maybe things will change at some point, but it's almost like, why even like make that something that you're upset about? Because there's nothing you can do. Like for me, I went to ATs in December. I didn't have VIP, but I went to ATs. And before the concert, I couldn't name all of the ATs members. Like I didn't know all. I mean, I had listened. I saw their set list and I listened to it before the concert, but I did not know a ton about ATs before I went there. And like there's nobody there that's gonna like, and I could have bought VIP tickets and there's nobody that could have stopped me, even though there's probably other people who are big fans of, you know, the group and stuff. But it's sort of like not, at this point it's not like on the person themselves to like not do things just because like it's not fair. Again, it sort of comes down to like, if you have the money, you can kind of do anything, which really sucks. Because where I wish there was like some sort of way to be like, okay, you're a fan, like here you go. Like, I mean, that's what I guess the fan club is, because why would you pay to get a fan club membership for a group you didn't really care about? But still, I wish there was a way to like quantifiably be like, you're a fan and so you guys get it, you guys deserve it, and then the rest of you can come later, because it really sucks. But there is no qualification like that right now. So, and even if they're just doing it for clout, the system kind of just allows that, and like, oh well, they're just doing it for clout. And of course it sucks when it's like, this is your favorite group and you want to, you know, be able to tell them how much they mean to you, or you want to go to a concert and be in VIP to like see them close up because like you're the biggest fan, and you see somebody in front of you who's like, I don't know who they are, I'm just trying to get that wave so I can post it on Twitter and go viral. Like, it really sucks that that does happen, but there's nothing in the system that's stopping that from happening. And maybe I'm just fucking, I don't like being upset, but I find that people in the K-pop community, not all people, but lots of people in the community just find reasons to be upset. But that's probably everywhere. People just find reasons to be upset. And sometimes I think you just need to like choose not to be upset by certain things. Is it like, okay, like why are you even here? Like you're not even like that big of a fan of them. You're just trying to get a wave. Like that seems very silly. But also like, just even if the, you know, but just like, like there's nothing, at that moment there's nothing you can do about it. And just being mad, you know, I feel like it's just like, why be mad when K-pop should be something that is nice. I'm going on too much. Okay, we're gonna round it up because I'm just talking out of my ass. So yeah, maybe some people are just applying to all these fan signs because they want to get like the YN moment and go viral on Twitter and stuff, and maybe aren't as big of a fan as like you or other people are. And maybe at some point that will change, and there will be different ways to like combat that, to make it like you have to actually know who they are to like do this stuff. But because all of this is kind of for money, I don't see it changing, because if somebody's willing to spend money to get a YN moment, then the company, I think, will always just be like, okay, all right, you're willing to spend money, we'll take it. But it does, like, it's understandable that you can be like upset about it, and it kind of sucks for it. But yeah, I think that I've talked long enough and I've rambled long enough. I hope that this made sense to you guys, and like, I don't want it to come across as if I'm like attacking or like berating people for like whatever any of their thoughts, because like, again, I'm just sort of an outside kind of perspective of like the groups, like I'm not in those fandoms and stuff, and so I hope that I hope that you take this as not like a mean thing. Like, I really don't want to be like mean or confrontational or like you're silly for being upset, because like you're not. You're allowed to be upset. It's kind of annoying, but hopefully this gave you maybe some reasons as to why things are the way that they are, and again, maybe things will change at some point. If I'm ever proven wrong, or like they change things, like, you know, to make it more like fair for people, that'd be great. I would love to be proven wrong. But yeah, hopefully you guys enjoyed this. Thank you so much for watching. My key albums also shipped, so I will be unboxing those once they arrive, probably sometime next week. Woohoo! But yeah, I will, I guess, leave it there now. So thank you so much for watching. You can subscribe to me down below, follow me on Instagram and TikTok. Yeah, I don't know what to say. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you guys in the next video. Bye!